Did you know that a surprising number of women fail to recognize the early signs that a man is being unfaithful? Not because they're naive, not because they're ignoring the truth, but because the signals are rarely obvious. Most people imagine cheating begins with a secret text message, a hidden phone call, or being caught in the act. In movies and dramatic stories, betrayal always looks loud and unmistakable. It explodes into the relationship like a sudden storm. But in real life, things are rarely that dramatic. The truth is far more subtle. Long before the betrayal becomes undeniable, something begins to shift inside the relationship. It happens quietly, gradually, almost invisibly. The language begins to change. Words shift. Tone changes. Certain phrases begin appearing again and again. At first, they seem harmless, even normal. But when you look closely, those phrases often carry meanings that most partners never question. Before we continue, if you're interested in understanding the deeper psychology behind relationships and human behavior, make sure to like this video and subscribe so you don't miss future insights. Now let's talk about something most people overlook. Men rarely announce betrayal with their actions first. In many cases, they reveal it through patterns of speech. The way someone talks when they're hiding something is often very different from the way they speak when everything is honest and transparent. Today, we're going to explore 6 phrases men often start using when they are cheating. Phrases that can sound completely normal on the surface, but may carry a deeper meaning underneath. Listen carefully, because once you recognize these patterns, you may begin to see your relationship very differently. 1. She's just a friend. You're overthinking it. One of the earliest signs often appears when a new female name begins entering the conversation. At first, it seems harmless. Maybe she's a coworker, maybe someone from the gym, maybe a friend he recently reconnected with online. In the beginning, there's nothing suspicious about it. People meet new people all the time. But over time, this name begins appearing more frequently in conversation. He mentions her in stories. He references her opinions. Sometimes he even compares situations involving her. Eventually, curiosity naturally arises. You might ask a simple question like, "Who is she?" And his response is often quick and dismissive. "Relax, she's just a friend." Now, on its own, that phrase isn't necessarily suspicious. Many friendships are completely harmless, but what matters is how often the reassurance needs to be repeated again and again. When a man is completely transparent, he rarely needs to defend the friendship again and again. The explanation is simple, clear, and the topic naturally fades away. But when something deeper is happening beneath the surface, reassurance slowly turns into defensiveness. You may notice that he becomes irritated when the topic comes up. Instead of calmly explaining the situation, he begins framing your curiosity as insecurity. You're overthinking it. This subtle shift does something very important. It moves the focus away from his behavior and places the spotlight on your reaction. Suddenly, the issue isn't the new woman in his life. The issue becomes your suspicion. And that's exactly the point. 2. I've just been really busy lately. Sudden busyness is one of the most common explanations men use when their availability begins to change. Work becomes more demanding, schedules become unpredictable, late nights start happening more often. At first, this explanation seems completely reasonable. Life does get busy. Responsibilities change, projects pile up, and sometimes work genuinely requires extra time. But when cheating enters the picture, the pattern begins to shift in subtle ways. You might notice he becomes harder to reach. Messages take longer to reply to. Phone calls suddenly go unanswered. Plans that were once consistent start getting canceled at the last minute. And whenever you ask about it, the answer is almost always the same. I've just been really busy. But real busyness usually comes with details, stories, specific explanations, moments that can be easily described.
Someone who is genuinely overwhelmed with work can usually explain what they've been dealing with. But when someone is hiding something, their explanations often remain vague and repetitive. The same phrase is used again and again. No new details, no deeper explanation. And slowly you begin to notice something strange. His schedule has changed, but his explanation never does.
3. You're being paranoid. This phrase often appears when suspicion begins getting a little too close to the truth. Instead of addressing your concerns directly, he shifts the conversation toward your emotions. You're being paranoid. At first, this might make you pause. You begin to question yourself. Maybe you are overreacting. Maybe you're reading too much into small things. Maybe the late nights, the distant behavior, and the new secrecy are just coincidences. And that's exactly why this phrase can be so powerful. It creates self-doubt. You begin analyzing your own reactions instead of examining his behavior. But healthy relationships allow room for questions. When nothing is being hidden, curiosity doesn't usually trigger hostility or defensiveness. A partner who has nothing to conceal will often explain things calmly. But when someone feels exposed, the fastest way to escape accountability is to make the other person question their perception. If you begin doubting your own instincts, the conversation ends there. Suddenly, the problem isn't his actions anymore, it's your suspicion. 4. I just need some time to clear my head. Another phrase that often appears during infidelity is the sudden request for emotional distance. A man who once seemed eager to spend time together may suddenly begin asking for space. I just need some time to think. I've got a lot on my mind. I need to clear my head. At first glance, this sounds like a mature and reasonable request. Everyone needs personal space sometimes. Relationships can be intense, and emotional balance is important. But in many cases, this request appears without a clear explanation. Nothing major happened. No serious conflict occurred. Yet suddenly he feels overwhelmed. This is where the deeper shift begins. Because what's happening in many situations like this isn't simply emotional reflection, it's emotional redistribution. His attention, energy, and emotional investment are slowly being divided between two different people, and creating distance from one relationship often creates space for another to grow. The more time he spends emotionally disconnected from you, the easier it becomes for him to invest that energy elsewhere. 5. Why are you always checking on me? As secrecy increases, defensiveness usually follows. You may begin noticing that he becomes strangely protective of things that never used to matter. His phone suddenly stays face down, notifications are quickly hidden, conversations are taken into other rooms, and when you ask simple questions, not accusations, just normal curiosity, his reaction may feel surprisingly intense. Why are you always checking on me? Why do you need to know everything I'm doing? Don't you trust me? This tactic is very effective because it reframes normal curiosity as control. Instead of answering the question, he challenges your right to ask it. But think about it carefully. In a healthy relationship built on trust, transparency usually isn't threatening. People who have nothing to hide rarely feel attacked by basic questions. But when someone is trying to keep parts of their life hidden, even small inquiries can start to feel like interrogation. And the easiest way to avoid answering a question is to make the question itself seem unreasonable.
6. You deserve someone better than me. This final phrase is perhaps the most revealing. On the surface, it sounds humble, even self-aware. You deserve someone better than me. At first, it might even sound like honesty, like he's reflecting on his flaws and acknowledging that he hasn't been the partner you deserve. But in many situations, this sentence carries something deeper beneath it: guilt. When someone knows they've crossed a line, they sometimes begin preparing the emotional ground for what might happen next. Instead of confessing directly, they frame themselves as flawed or inadequate, as if the problem is simply their shortcomings. But hidden beneath that statement is often an unspoken truth. He knows something you don't know yet, and saying you deserve someone better becomes a way of easing his own guilt without fully admitting what he's done. Final thoughts. Now, it's important to understand something. Not every one of these phrases automatically means someone is cheating. Context always matters. Relationships are complex, and human behavior is rarely as simple as a single sentence or a single moment. People go through stress, work schedules change, personal struggles sometimes make communication more difficult. People get busy, people need space, and sometimes people simply communicate poorly without realizing how their words might sound to the person they love. That's why it's important not to jump to conclusions based on one moment or one phrase alone. But while individual moments can be misleading, patterns rarely are. Patterns tell a deeper story. When behavior begins to change, language often changes with it. The way someone communicates starts to shift in subtle ways. Their tone becomes different. Their explanations begin to feel repetitive or defensive. Conversations that once felt open and relaxed start to feel tense or guarded. And over time, these small changes begin to form a pattern. The way someone speaks to you, the explanations they give, the way they respond when you ask simple questions, all of these details can reveal far more about what's happening beneath the surface than most people realize. Because communication is often the first place where internal conflict begins to show itself. When someone is completely honest and emotionally present in a relationship, their words usually feel natural and consistent. There is openness, clarity, and a sense that nothing needs to be hidden. But when something changes internally, when guilt, secrecy, or emotional distance begins to grow, that internal tension often leaks into everyday conversations. Sometimes it appears as defensiveness, sometimes as avoidance, and sometimes it appears in the form of the phrases we talked about today. This is why awareness matters. Awareness isn't about becoming suspicious of every little thing your partner says. It isn't about constantly questioning or assuming the worst in someone you care about. Healthy relationships require trust, but healthy relationships also require emotional awareness. Being aware simply means paying attention to the patterns that naturally appear over time. It means noticing when communication changes, when explanations no longer feel consistent, or when emotional closeness slowly starts to fade. Because sometimes the biggest truths in a relationship are not revealed through dramatic discoveries or shocking confrontations. They're revealed quietly, in everyday conversations, in the tone of someone's voice, in the small phrases that begin repeating themselves again and again. And once you start noticing those patterns, it becomes much harder to ignore what they might be trying to tell you. Understanding these signals doesn't mean your relationship is doomed. In many cases, recognizing these patterns early can actually create an opportunity for honest conversations, clarity, and sometimes even healing. But the first step toward any form of truth is awareness, and awareness begins with paying attention. If you found this insight valuable, take a moment to like this video, share it with someone who might benefit from hearing this message, and subscribe for more content exploring the deeper psychology behind relationships and human behavior. Because the more we understand how people think, behave, and communicate, the better equipped we become to protect our peace, our boundaries, and the relationships that truly deserve our trust.